Something very weird happening in the market today. What I'm talking about is the decoupling of the correlation that we usually see between crypto, Bitcoin, and the stock market. What I'm talking about is the S&P 500, which is down quite a bit today for the stock market. Okay, currently at about below 6,700 now, while Bitcoin is actually having a negative correlation day with the stock market. Why is that important? Is because they are usually highly correlated risk on assets, okay? But we have seen the stock market running ahead of Bitcoin for a lot of the past couple of months, right? Reaching new all-time highs, while Bitcoin is lagging behind. So, could this be the start of a huge rebound for Bitcoin? And why is Bitcoin important? It's because it is the driver of this crypto market. If it has more room to pump, that is going to be good for a lot of these altcoins here. However, if Bitcoin has more room to dump, which there is still a risk of because it broke down from this huge rising wedge pattern I've been talking about. Okay, and we are on the weekly 50 SMA, which I don't think is going to be very strong support. And my reasoning is because it has tapped this moving average the third time already. And when you keep hitting a support, the support gets weaker. However, you could make the argument that we're also in the zone of support where we have consolidated for quite some time, which said about that anywhere from about 95,000 to where it's at right now to 105,000 coming from this area of weekly candles before the consolidation. Okay. However, if this support does not hold, then we're looking at a breakdown target of 95,000, which I talked about a head and shoulders pattern breakdown a couple days ago. Okay. That is also part of a bigger breakdown target of this huge rising wedge pattern that could take Bitcoin all the way down to almost 80,000, and that would be very bad for the altcoins. So very important to be paying attention to Bitcoin still, as always. We're going to be taking a look into a few altcoin setups later in this video as well, which will include Aster, ICP, which is Internet Computer, and Ankr Network Token. See what's happening in these coins later in this video. What are their trading setups right now? If they are still looking bullish, if they're looking bearish now, what's happening with those coins? I am bullish. I am long on quite a bit of these altcoins here. So my opinions on these markets are bullish. However, these are just my opinions, and like the entirety of this video, it's not financial advice. You guys got to form your own opinions and strategies, okay? Now, what I'm seeing here is on the daily time frame, I talked about a falling wedge pattern scenario, okay? Now, this is, if this falling wedge pattern actually breaks to the upside here for Bitcoin, that's going to be looking a lot better for the altcoins, of course, and the rest of the crypto markets. If it breaks up at this point, for example, the price target would be about 128,000. And that would also tell me that the breakdown of this rising wedge pattern is less likely to go towards that $80,000 target. Okay, nothing in this market is 100%. We're all just talking about probabilities here, and falling wedges have a higher chance of breaking to the upside. We also have bullish divergence that's playing out on the daily time frame right now. I am still looking for a possible short position for on Bitcoin at about 106,000, because that was basically the support of that head and shoulders pattern. That is a potential short that I may take to hedge my long positions. I'm just trying to create win-win positions for myself. It's going to be a very small short position with a very short stop. Okay. If Bitcoin does not get back on top of that $106,000 resistance now, then I will still get paid. However, if it does break above it, and if it does break a bit above it, then the increase in value of my long positions should overcompensate for my my short position getting liquidated. Okay, so that is potentially what I'm looking at. Let's take a look into the 4-hour time frame, where this is a double bottom that could be playing out as well with bullish divergence. Price target for this double bottom is going to be about 110,000. Price targets are estimates only. There could be more, there could be less. Okay. Now the support here is going to be about, no, the resistance here is going to be about 104.5 thousand here. Okay. Now you could argue that this looks like a head and shoulders pattern as well. You could argue that. But head and shoulders pattern, how I see it, is usually coming from, you would usually see buyer exhaustion on the RSI. But right here, I'm seeing more seller exhaustion. And it does look like a cup and, both a head and shoulders pattern and a double bottom pattern as well. But I do say that this is more of a double bottom pattern because I'm seeing more seller exhaustion on the RSI. Let's go ahead and we're going to take a look into the news. Okay. And see what's happening in the economy, crypto markets, more macro level. This is by You Today. Crucial Bitcoin bullish metric turns positive. Imminent rebound. Let's see what this person is talking about. The Bitcoin price is consolidating around 100,000 after days of experiencing volatility amid the ongoing drawdown. Analysts have spotted a key metric that has turned positive, potentially leading to a price reversal. What I'm seeing is the bullish divergence on the daily time frame, and that falling wedge I've been talking about, right? If that falling wedge does not break out and actually continues downwards, then we're going to see more downside. It's as simple as that. All right, let's take a look into this. A little bit more into this piece of news here. Bitcoin's bid and ask ratio turns positive. Martin, a top analyst at Crypto Quant, noted that the Bitcoin bid and ask ratio has flipped to plus 0.2. This is quite notable as it is the first green bar seen in months. That is not a ratio I usually study, but that is interesting to note because of this sentence here. This is quite notable as it is the first green bar seen in months. So that could be significant. If you guys study this metric, let me know in the comment section below what you guys think. Let's go ahead and go to the next piece here. This is by Coinpedia. Bitcoin price analysis, key levels to watch, and altcoin rotation signals. We are seeing a huge altcoin rotation today. As you guys can see, Bitcoin only rebounding by 1%. Ethereum rebounding by over 2%. Total 3, which is altcoin market excluding Ethereum, up by over 4%. Pretty crazy here. And this is the Zcash charts. This is the Bitcoin chart. This is the ICP chart. Comparing charts. Okay. Okay, let's go back to the news here. What is the key levels to watch according to this analyst here? Well, what I think is that 100,000 level, right? And that weekly 50 SMA in that range. Okay. The crypto market feels tense. Bitcoin has dropped from recent highs. Altcoins are showing unstable moves, and social media is full of negativity. Okay, many retail traders have shifted towards stocks, thinking crypto is done for now. Okay, I've seen these drops. Many of these drops. Okay, and that's why I don't really get too emotional about it anymore because I've seen quite a bit of crazy rebounds after these drops. I'm not saying that this is going to be a rebound for sure. But I'm just saying I've seen quite a bit of these drops, and I'm not really shaken by it. Maybe just a little. But I've seen harder drops before. The COVID drop, the August 2024 drop last year, I thought that was almost the end of the world. So this drop is not that crazy. Let's go ahead and go to the next piece here. This is by News BTC. Here's why JP Morgan analysts are still bullish on the Bitcoin price after crashing below 100,000. The recent price crash below 100,000 has sparked widespread concerns across the crypto markets, but major institutional players like JP Morgan remains unshaken. According to reports, JP Morgan analysts have issued a surprising bullish outlook for Bitcoin forecasting a potential surge to 170,000 in the near future. I need more specifics on what the near future is. Otherwise, it's really hard to, you know, it's really hard to put a finger on it, right? If you don't really be specific. I mean, I've seen Tom Lee's forecast. I thought those were pretty bold forecasts. Like 200,000, I think I think it's still 200,000 by the end of the year. That is something more exciting to, at least talk about. But you got to be more specific, JP Morgan. Near future? I mean, that's not specific enough. All right, next piece is by News BTC. Bitcoin faces potential 50% crash, but analysts say the fear is overblown. I see an $80,000 Bitcoin breakdown target. However, price targets are estimates only. Okay, we have quite a bit of support between now and then, including your monthly 21 SMA, which is going to be pretty solid support at about 87,000. Okay. So 50% crash, that's going to be all the way back down to 50,000. What do you guys think? Right? Maybe if we get a blow off top, but I don't think anytime soon. At least not in the next couple of months. Let's come back to the charts here. Let's go to altcoins, okay? We're going to be first taking a look into ICP, which has been having an amazing run. I've been talking about ICP for the past couple of months. If you guys been here, you guys know. And you guys have seen the doubters, right? But I've been saying that when Bitcoin comes back, so will a lot of these altcoins. And we're seeing it. That's almost a god candle here on this weekly time frame for ICP. But what we're looking at for ICP right now, it is at the weekly 200 SMA, the orange line, basically parallel with this upward trend line of this huge pattern I've been talking about. It's trying to break out. However, it is back into the pattern, right? Let's see if ICP can actually overcome this resistance, because it is a huge resistance, the weekly 200 SMA. Now, if ICP breaks out by this point, for example, price target would be about $22 ICP. Okay. Now, price targets are estimates only. For altcoins, it's going to depend a lot on Bitcoin. If Bitcoin starts dumping from here, which there is still a risk of, that could still invalidate a lot of these setups for altcoins. So very important to be watching out for Bitcoin first. I always look at the Bitcoin chart before trading any altcoins. Let's take a look into a shorter time frame here, 4-hour time frame. Very important for ICP to break this upward trend line. Otherwise, you could potentially be looking at a falling wedge pattern, falling channel pattern, something of that sort. Okay, that means a rejection here above this upward trend line on the shorter time frame. Let's go ahead and go to Aster. See what's happening with Aster. Weekly time frame. Excuse me. Let's go to a smaller time frame here. Daily time frame. Falling wedge pattern. It broke out on October 24th. Price target $1, almost $1.80. Since the breakout here, it has formed a double bottom pattern. First bottom, October 30th. Second bottom, November 3rd, about 90 cents. Double bottoms are bullish patterns that have a higher chance of breaking to the upside, and the neckline of this double bottom pattern here is it's about $1.30. Price target for this double bottom pattern is going to be about $1.70, so pretty consistent with almost at the same price target of that falling wedge pattern. Let's see if it gets there. Okay, your daily 50 SMA is at about $1.43. That could be resistant along the way. That just popped up today. Let's go ahead and go to Ankr. I also want to mention that there is bullish divergence playing out right now. You guys should definitely learn divergence, and I think it's the easiest to read divergence on the RSI. where you have an equal or lower low on the price action chart, but you see an equal or higher low on the RSI, that usually tells you that the bears are losing strength and a reversal is likely. And we're seeing that happening on Aster right now. Let's go ahead and go to Ankr Network. Ankr Network. This has been tense for sure. If you actually take a look into this chart here, because this is a falling wedge pattern on Ankr Network. Ankr Network, since the crash that happens a few weeks back, that major crash that has liquidated a few of my leverage positions, but I'm still alive here because I did not over leverage. A very important lesson to be learned. And what we're seeing here for Ankr Network is that it's trying to stay above this bottom trend line here. And what's being shown to me right here is that other traders are seeing this pattern as well. As you guys see that this weekly time frame, the candles have barely stayed on top of this bottom trend line. That tells me other traders are seeing this as support, validating this bottom trend line. Okay. Now, this falling wedge pattern is still valid as long as we don't get weekly candles closes below this bottom trend line. I think the weekly time frame is the highest time frame this pattern is valid in. Am I wrong? Yeah, I actually am wrong, because the monthly time frame would be the highest time frame this bottom trend line is validated in. Okay. So even if you get weekly candle closes below this bottom trend line, it doesn't invalidate this falling wedge pattern, because this falling wedge pattern is the highest time frame for this falling wedge pattern that is validated in is on a monthly time frame. Okay. Now, if Ankr Network actually breaks out by this point, for example, because falling wedges have a higher chance of breaking to the upside, then the price target will still be about 10 cents, above 10 cents price target. Let's take a look into a shorter time frame and see if we can get any more hint on what's happening with Ankr. I think the 3-day time frame, where I could see that there is bullish divergence playing out right here, a small double bottom on the RSI playing out right now. Okay, this could still be a somewhat of a cup and handle scenario if Ankr comes back to retest 1.2 cents. This is just potential cup and handle scenario, not completely. It's far from being developed, but we can come back here and check on the status of this later if you guys want to continue seeing any more of Ankr Network. So if you guys do want to continue seeing any more of Ankr, ICP, Aster, make sure to drop a like, comment, subscribe, or any other coins in this market. I'll pick a request to do for you guys on a daily basis, and I'll see you on the next one.